Last Night in Soho is Edgar Wright's newest film, and this was one of my most anticipated films of the year because Edgar Wright is one of my favorite directors of all time. I've loved every single one of his movies, and in Last Night in Soho, an aspiring fashion designer is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s where she encounters a dazzling wannabe singer. But the glamour is not all it appears to be, and the dreams of the past start to crack and splinter into something darker. Now, I was super hyped for the movie, although I didn't know how to explain it. When I was trying to explain this movie before I saw it to my friends, I just saw it with my mom tonight, but before I was talking about it with my friends, whatever, I didn't know how to explain it. I had to look up that exact synopsis. I think that's the most kind of broad term to describe the movie, because this movie is completely different, no matter if you're just a general, audience or moviegoer or whatever, or if you're a big Edgar Wright fan, because this is absolutely nothing like his other movies. He's known very well for, fast editing, really funny, quirky movies, but this movie is nothing like that. It definitely at times feels like a movie from the 60s, and that happens when the movie does take place in the 60s. There's a little bit of difference in the way that it's edited, but I absolutely loved it. I think it works so well here, and one of the best things about it is how it looks. This film is gorgeous. Now, of course, I'm a sucker for two things when it comes to cinematography and lighting. One is silhouettes, and the other one is neon lighting and stuff like that. So reds and blues and pinks and all this. And one of the main things in this movie is that our lead character here, inside of her room, she has a light that flashes blue and then red and then white in like a different order, but still. And there are many different times in the film where when she sees these visions and all this stuff comes on the screen, it'll just be like somebody in red or somebody with blue and green going across, and I just thought it looked wonderful. But the best thing about the movie is the performances. Thomasin Mackenzie stars in this movie, and I love Jojo Rabbit. It's one of my favorite films of 2019. I love her as an actress. I think that she's absolutely amazing, and she gives possibly the best performance I've seen all year in this movie. She is utterly thrilling. She is so fantastic in this movie, and when the movie opened, I was like, okay, this is definitely different from what I expected, but after a certain thing, I was like, oh, okay, this is exactly what I wanted, although not what I expected. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but she is so good here because she starts, feeling a little crazy and like feeling a little different, and it totally makes sense. And the way that she portrays it and the way that it's shot as well, again going back to the cinematography, is so smart, again with Anya Taylor-Joy, who co-stars kind of in this movie as Sandy or whatever name you want to call her here. I think that she was also fantastic. I love her as well, so I was really excited to see the movie because I love these two and I think that they are both fantastic. It's hard to talk about them without going into spoilers, and don't worry, I will definitely not go into spoilers in this video. I might do a spoiler talk with somebody else, but I'll save it for a few days if I do that anytime soon. Thomasin Mackenzie just had so many scenes where she has wowed me. Once again, like there were just so many times in the movie where I was just like, you are such a damn good actress. I think that she's amazing. I really hope that this film does well with the awards and stuff. I know it doesn't really matter, but I do think that she definitely deserves it. Same with Anya Taylor-Joy. I think that, of course, she is fantastic as well. It is hard to talk about them together and all this stuff without going into spoilers, and everybody else in the cast is very good. Of course, I had to talk about those two. Everybody else is very good as well. Those two stood out to me. And Edgar Wright, I mean, he's one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. Shaun of the Dead is amazing. The World's End might even be my favorite. Hot Fuzz is great. Scott Pilgrim is amazing. Baby Driver, they're all amazing. They're all fantastic movies. I'm not exactly sure where this one ranks amongst the other ones. I know for sure I like Shaun of the Dead and The World's End more, and I think probably Baby Driver above that, but I'm not sure with Hot Fuzz and Scott Pilgrim, just because it's been the longest since I've seen those movies, or at least my experience and viewing experience was a little bit different with those movies. But I still think that all the movies are great, and this one just adds on to Edgar Wright's amazing filmography. I think his direction here is very, again, different from what we see, but it works so well. What I was talking about with my slight issues with the movie, I'll go into that now. It's not his direction, don't worry, but within the first 15 minutes of the movie, it was definitely not what I expected. When it started, I was like, oh, this is different. I feel like a lot of people feel this, but after a certain event, and you guys will know this certain event when you watch the movie, I was totally locked in, and I loved basically everything else I saw. And my other tiny little issue here, again, these are very, very minor issues. This is definitely like top 3 of the year for me, trust me. There's one scene involving I don't know how to explain it, but there's a certain scene where stuff is explained to the audience, and I was like, okay, I kind of understood that, and it happened, it's probably like the start of the third act, I'd say, or maybe sometime at the end of the second one, and I was like, okay, we didn't exactly need it, like, hey, this is what happened here, this is what all this means, so there was that, and I was like, oh, we didn't exactly need that, but again, those are very minor issues. This film also sounds amazing. That's something that not a lot of people will talk about, I feel. They'll talk about the soundtrack. It uses some amazing 1960s songs. Also, if that is actually Anya Taylor-Joy singing, oh my god, is she good. But the actual sound design and the way that they use repeated lines and the way it's all mixed together, I thought it was just so well done. This movie really blew me away, and it's one of those that really inspires me to make movies, and I know that a lot of people will feel the same way when they walk out of it. I feel like a lot of people said that with Baby Driver, but this film is so different. I think the best way to describe it is it's a psychological thriller with many twists and turns. It has some elements of horror, there's a few scenes of comedy, and a little bit of like coming of age stuff, and the movie also has a lot of themes. There's a lot of messages here. Sometimes towards the end the messages can be a little bit confusing, but I still think it worked overall. There's one main theme in the movie, which again, I won't get into in this video, probably in a different video though, that I just think works so well. I definitely understood it. I thought Edgar Wright did a fantastic job with Last Night in Soho. Last Night in Soho is a gripping, compelling, intoxicating film. Edgar Wright managed to completely switch genres, yet still not feel like an amateur. Thomasin Mackenzie is electric and possibly gives the best performance I've seen all year, plus Anya Taylor-Joy glows once again. I'm going to give Last Night in Soho a 4.5 out of 5. Honestly, when I rewatch it, I can see this one jumping up to a 5 out of 5. Again, I don't know where it ranks amongst the other films. Also, ranking them, it feels bad to say one of them is in last place just because I love all the movies. I think that all of his movies are great, and this one is so different from Edgar Wright, but it works so well. I highly recommend seeing this film as soon as possible. I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to see it tonight, but then my mom, thankfully, thank you, took me to go see it, and I just loved it. The theater experience was great. There was one moment where I was like, oh, and then I noticed something, and then like 30 seconds later I heard a bunch of people beside me whispering again. I definitely will not go into that in this video, but if you have seen Last Night in Soho, please tell me what you think of it down below. Where does it rank for you amongst the other Edgar Wright films? I know it's a little difficult, but if you do know, let me know down below, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.